What is up, everybody? Piscean here, bringing you another video, and this time, let us talk about money. Let us talk about the things that my Taurus ascendant ass loves. You know, I get off on me in multiple different cars, driving around. I get off on living in a big house. I get off on having enough money to donate to multiple fucking charities and fundraisers. I get off on all that because I have an ego like everybody else. I'm 21 years old and I can tell you this. This is the truth. I'm not gonna lie on this channel. I will never lie to myself anymore, ever again, after my own story. And anyone around me, you'll always get the truth from me. So, with peace and love, subscribe, like, comment, share if you dare and care, because we're going to get into a systematic exposition of advanced astrological mechanics, and this time it's volume 3, so check out volume 1 and volume 2 on the channel already. This is the Midas Wheel on the mechanics of fortune and rune. I call it my conceptual anthology and installment gamma. So, if you haven't seen my other 2 videos, check out my playlists on the channel. I have all my videos and playlists sorted out for you to watch thoroughly. So let's do this. Here's a foreword to volume 3. Well, if death, ladies, gentlemen, aliens, is the final accounting in love is a heart's fragile currency, then wealth is the material shadow of both, a store of life energy crystallized into coin, property, and power. The stars do not merely witness the rise and fall of fortunes. They actively encode the mechanics of accumulation and dissolution in the natal chart, the progress chart, and the great chronological cycles that govern the economic tide of a single life. The vulgar astrologer peering at a client's chart may mutter, "Jupiter in the 2nd house, you'll be rich," or "Saturn in the 8th house, you'll die in debt." These pronouncements are worse than useless. They are dangerous simplifications that ignore the intricate, multi-layered machinery that actually determines whether the native will build an empire, scrape by in respectable poverty, or swing wildly between both extremes. This volume and this video dismantles the simplistic and reconstructs the algorithmic. We address the question that every client secretly harbors. In consultations, astrologically speaking, is my chart destined for wealth? And we answer with the full rigor of the astrological tradition, drawing on the natal promise revealed by the Plutus engine, a configuration of planets, houses, Arabic parts, fixed stars, and chronocatoric cycles that together form the Midas Wheel. We explore what configurations genuinely suggest a guaranteed level of success, and we expose the shadow signatures that presage financial ruin, sudden loss, or a lifetime of deprivation. As always, we treat the astrological chart not as a static verdict, but as a living mechanism whose potentiations must be actualized through time, place, and individual effort. Yet, we do not shy from the fact that some charts are born with a silver spoon in their celestial mouth, privileged, while others must wrest every penny from a hostile cosmos. If you don't know what white privilege is, do yourself a favor and do some research. If you think critical race theory is bullshit, you should probably go jump off a cliff. Just saying. Like, actually read a book. Like, yeah, do your research. A lot of you guys in the world we live in 2026, it seems like are still a part of this Nazi propaganda, KKK. And because I don't like trans people, I'm being told that I'm a transphobe, I'm a bigot, I'm a far right, I'm a conservative, I'm a Trump supporter, all these things because of what I believe now in my own story. So fuck everybody. Like, you always have to be one or the other. You can't fucking win. You can't. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So, the adept will find herein the full panoply of classical and modern techniques. We're going to go over the Almuten of the 2nd house, the pars fortuna and its derivatives, which again, that's just the part of fortune, which we've talked about multiple times. Or you could just say the cusp for the 8th, honestly. And then we look at the fixed stars that rain gold or ashes. The solar return and profectional triggers of financial boom and bust, and the indispensable role of rectification in verifying the exact degree upon which the wheel of fortune turns. No prior work in the astrological canon has integrated these scattered doctrines into a unified operational manual for financial astromechanics. We now offer that manual, and by we, I mean me, Piscean X05, here to bring it to you for free. So, let's start with the golden axis here. Money in astrological symbolism is not a single planet or a house. It is a composite function arising from the intersection of multiple principles. So, these are just a few examples of planets and certain houses that we'll talk about in more detail. So, the second house governs personal earned income, movable possessions, and the native sense of self-worth that attracts or repels wealth. The fifth house governs speculation, risk-taking, creative output, and the financial yield of pleasure and children. The eighth house governs other people's money, inheritances, taxes, debts, and the transformative power of shared resources. The 11th house governs gains from career, patrons, networks, and collective prosperity, the fruits of the 10th house. Jupiter is the greater benefic, the planet of expansion, abundance, and the principle of good fortune that multiplies what it touches. Venus is a lesser benefic, governing value, luxury, and the power of attraction that draws resources into the life. Saturn is the greater malefic, but also the planet of consolidation, long-term wealth through discipline, and sometimes miserliness or deep poverty. The Pars Fortuna, or part of fortune, is the lot of the body, vitality, and worldly condition. Its house and aspects reveal the arena in which fortune flowers. So this is what we see. And this helps us with our Midas wheel. The Midas wheel is the integrated operation of all these factors, modulated by the natives' chronocraters, time lords, primary directions, and transits. All right? The question of guaranteed success can only be answered by examining the harmony of the entire assembly, the dignity of the wealth significators, and the absence of catastrophic afflictions. Even then, the wheel turns. Poverty may be the prelude to riches, and riches the incubator of ruin. You never know. Now let's talk about the natal architecture of wealth, the Plutus engine, the second house, and its Almuten. So the bedrock of financial astrology is the second house cusp, its lord, and the planets posited therein. The Almuten of the second house, the planet that possesses the greatest essential dignity in the degree of the second cusp, is the primary significator of the native's personal financial power. Its strength by sign, house placement, and aspect gives the raw capacity for wealth accumulation. So we have table Alpha 1, second house Almuten dignity scoring, where we get to look at the dignity, the score, and the effect on financial capacity. All right, so let's go over these. So our dignity shows us, we're going to talk about the rulership, exaltation, triplicity, term, face, detriment, and fall. Rulership, we add 5 points. It's a natural affinity with money, an easy gain. Exaltation, we add 4 points. It's elevated, sometimes sudden wealth, honor through resources. Triplicity, we add 3 points. It's stable, consistent earnings, support from friends, family. Term, we add 2 points. Modest but steady gains, skill-based. Face, we add 1 point. It's weak but some capacity and requires effort. Detriment, we subtract 5 points. Struggle, money slips away, financial self-sabotage. And fall, we subtract 4 points. Reversals, poverty, consciousness, humiliation through money. Possibly even exploitation, extortion, blackmail in regards to finances, depending on where certain things are in the chart. But the stronger the Almuten, the more innate the financial potential. But potential requires activation. So like a well-dignified Almuten that is cadent, unaspected, or retrograde may never manifest fully without hard transits. Conversely, a debilitated Almuten that receives a strong trine from an exalted Jupiter can produce a rags to riches arc through the benevolence of others. So, yeah. It really depends on your natal chart, folks. Jupiter is the abundant stream, right? But people with prominent Jupiter like myself are asking, why have I been out of a job for 2 fucking years? I have Sun and Pisces in the 11th house. I have Taurus rising. I have Libra moon. Why have I been out of a job? Why have I been struggling to find a job? Well, I fucking have Sagittarius in my 8th house. I actually have Pluto in the 8th house. So that could be a part of it. But anyways, so Jupiter's placement by house and its aspects to the second house cusp, its lord, or the part of fortune, are the most direct indicators of windfalls, generosity of the universe, and the luck factor. However, Jupiter's tendency to excess can also manifest as profligacy. Profligacy, yes, unless restrained by Saturnine aspects, which means overspending. Well, actually, hold on. Let me actually read you the fucking definition, because I don't even know. It's crazy. Sorry, guys. So, profligacy means the trait of spending extravagantly, dissolute indulgence in sensual pleasure. All right. So, this is table Alpha 2. As you guys can see, it's Jupiter's financial signatures. So we look at the Jupiter configuration as well as the wealth indication. All right, so Jupiter in the second house direct, unafflicted, it's abundance, money comes easily, generosity. Jupiter in the 8th house trine the sun is wealth through inheritance, marriage, or other people's resources. Jupiter in the 11th house conjunct Venus is gains through friends, networks, and patrons, often a lucky social circle. Jupiter square the second house ruler is overspending, financial cycles of boom and bust, inability to save. Jupiter opposite the POF is good fortune that comes and goes, instability in worldly condition. And Jupiter conjunct Regulus, let's say 29 degrees Leo, which is a fixed star, by the way, in case you haven't seen my other videos. It's royal wealth, but with the risk of hubris and fall if afflicted by Saturn. Now let's talk about Saturn, the Iron Vault. Well, Saturn's role is paradoxical. Saturn in the second house can indicate poverty, penny pinching, and fear of scarcity. But Saturn in the 5th house or the 8th house, a good aspect to the second lord, can create immense consolidated wealth through discipline, long-term investments, and real estate. Saturn is the master of accumulation, whereas Jupiter is the master of influx. All right? The wealthiest charts often feature a synergistic Jupiter-Saturn connection, like a trine between the two, or a mutual reception between the two that marries the expansive and the consolidating powers of the benefics. All right? It's like Jupiter is getting even more exalted working with Saturn, because Saturn is such a planet of structure and discipline that whatever Jupiter touches, if it needs to go to work, it will go to work. All right? But it simply will, with Saturn's help. And it will do a very good job at it. Excuse me. So, table Alpha 3 is Saturn's financial signatures, where I want to go over Saturn's configuration, and I would like to look at the result, typically. Bear with me, I still need a fucking stylus, so I'm using my fingers, like I've used my fingers to make these videos. I don't use a stylus. Too cool for that. Actually, no, just can't be asked. So Saturn in the second house retrograde is deep-seated fear of poverty, and it may manifest as extreme frugality or late-life wealth after early scarcity. Saturn in the 10th house, trining the second lord, is wealth through career, its slow but steady rise to authority and prosperity. Saturn squaring Jupiter is the fiscal cliff aspect of gains followed by devastating losses, or a Midas touch that eventually crushes. Saturn conjunct Venus, cold love of money, wealth through strategic relationships, but emotional warmth may be sacrificed. Saturn in the 8th house, well aspected, is mastery of debt and investment, ability to profit from others' resources. Now I want to go over the Arabic parts of wealth mapping the golden veins. So the POF, I've talked about so many times. Calculate with the ascendant, adding the moon, subtracting the sun for your diurnal chart, or reversing ascendant, adding sun, subtracting moon for nocturnal charts. It's the most fundamental Arabic part, representing the physical body, worldly condition, and the place where fortune finds the native. Its house placement tells the area of life through which prosperity will flow. Alright, so the first house is personal magnetism, and it attracts wealth. It's self-made, alright? So the ego. Second house is fortune is tied directly to earn income. Money is the native's luck. The 10th house is career and public standing, bringing fortune. It's very public career. So like working at a fucking airport, working at restaurant, you're being seen by people, a lot of people. 11th house is gains through social networks, organizations, and collective projects. Like nonprofits, that's your nonprofits. Your fucking Habitats for Humanities. So the part of fortune's dispositor, the planet ruling the sign it occupies, acts as a steward of fortune. Its condition is paramount. A well-placed, aspected dispositor funnels material luck to the native. A debilitated, afflicted dispositor suggests that the fortune is delayed, blocked, or must be accessed through hardship, i.e., possibly even homelessness, which we can also see in the chart. Like, dude, I was fucking homeless. I have Saturn in Cancer in the 3rd house. I was fucking homeless on and off for several months at the age of 19 years old. So that's just an example. And I have videos on the channel talking about this, I'm pretty sure. So the part of substance, pars substantiae, is a more specific financial part. So the ascendant, adding the second house cusp, subtracting the second ruler. This lot reveals the natives' accumulated possessions and the quality of their material resources. When the part of substance is conjunct a benefic, especially Jupiter or Venus, wealth is a core part of the life narrative. Its malefic contacts, being Mars and Saturn, may indicate loss through litigation, theft, or compulsive spending. All right? The part of debt and the part of bankruptcy. These parts, though obscure, are essential for the advanced practitioner who seeks to forecast financial crises with precision. So the part of debt, or POD, and then the part of bankruptcy, or the POB. So the POD is the ascendant, adding Saturn, subtracting Mercury. It's a nocturnal formula, it may invert. Identifies points of financial vulnerability and obligation. While the POB is the ascendant, adding the 8th house cusp, subtracting Jupiter. When transiting Saturn or Pluto crosses this part, the native may face insolvency or a forced restructuring of resources. Alright, the chronocatoric wealth timing. Let's talk about primary directions for Daria and profectional years. All right. Primary directions to the second house and its lord. So primary directions, the most ancient and revered predictive technique, measures the arc of the equator between 2 points, converting degrees into years of life. When the directed ascendant reaches a sextile or trine of the second house Al-Mutn, period of financial ease often commences. Conversely, the direction of Mars or Saturn to the second house cusp can precipitate serious monetary loss. All right. And now I want to go over algorithm DIR2, the wealth direction. This is highly conceptual, but hear me out. We'd compute the arc from the directed ascendant to the Al-Mutn of the second house, or to Jupiter. Second, we would convert arc to years using the Ptolemaic key, which is 1 degree equals 1 year. And third, we would note the aspects like a trine, 120 degrees yields a gain cycle around age 120 if directed, but more realistically, the semi-arc or proportional directions give earlier crises. In modern practice, the symbolic directions, solar arc, or secondary progressions are often used for pragmatic forecasting. We include a table of traditional primary directions, ages for the second house, Al-Mutn, conjunction, trine, or square to the ascendant or the midheaven. And more practically, solar arc directions of Jupiter to the second house cusp or the POF coincide with significant financial upswings. The solar arc Pluto to the second house can bring total financial transformation, inheritance, bankruptcy, or a fundamental shift in values. Right, Fardar or Fardaria is the Persian planetary periods, right? We've also talked about this on the channel. So I do talk about some similar topics that I've already talked about, but I'm talking about them in such a different way. Yeah. Anyways, the Fardaria system assigns each period of life to a ruling planet with a sub-ruler, coloring the native's overall fortune during that epoch. The Fardar of Jupiter, 12 years from age 12 to 20, and again in later cycles in the nocturnal or diurnal order, is typically a period of growth and opportunity, but its actual financial yield depends on natal Jupiter's condition. The Fardar of Saturn subperiod during a Jupiter Fardar may temper wealth with restructuring. The Fardar of Mars subperiod during a Venus Fardar could bring financial conflicts or impulsive spending. Now I want to show you Table Gamma 1 Fardar wealth signatures. And this is where you can see we're going to go over our planetary period, subperiod, and that potential financial manifestation. Alright, so for Jupiter's planetary period, its subperiod is Jupiter as well. And its potential financial manifestation, or we'll just say it's PFM is expansion, windfall, investment success. Jupiter is subperiod Saturn. Stable growth, real estate, discipline, expansion. So, Saturn, Jupiter, rewards after hard work, late blooming prosperity. Venus, Mercury is earnings through writing, speaking, trade. Mars, Venus is money through competition, volatility, and passion industries. Alright, annual profections and the second house year. So profection is a simple but powerful timing tool. Each year, the ascendant moves one whole sign house. When the profected ascendant reaches the natal second house, ages 1, 13, 25, 37, 49, 61, 73, 85, the native's financial spotlight is activated. The condition of the natal planets in the second and the transits to that house during that year will dictate whether the year brings gains or losses. A profected year that activates a Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the second house can produce life-changing wealth. A profected year that falls under the aspect of transiting Pluto to the natal Saturn in the second house can destroy a fortune. Let's talk about the fixed stars of Golden Ash. Certain fixed stars radiate a permanent financial influence when tightly conjunct personal points, the second house cusp, or the POF. Others, when afflicted, burn wealth to the ground. Let's show you table Delta 1, the wealth stars. Well, we're going to go over the star, its longitude for 2026, its financial effect. All right, so Spica, it's 23 degrees 50 Libra. The star of abundance, it's one of the most fortuitous contacts for wealth, especially for artists and merchants. Regulus is 29 degrees 50 Leo. It's royalty, prominence, and wealth, but only if Saturn does not aspect it, otherwise a fall from grace. Vega is 15 degrees 19 Capricorn. Wealth through talent, charisma, and high position may be accompanied by a cold or distant personal life. Sirius is 14 degrees 05 Cancer. It's brilliant success, but with the cost of being eaten by the dog if the native becomes arrogant. Faithful service rewarded with riches. Capella is 21 degrees 51 Gemini. Wealth through exploration, travel, and eccentricity. The goat star gives abundant but sometimes strange prosperity. A Turner is 15 degrees 20 Pisces. Fortune in spiritual or distant matters. It may be linked to water, oil, or the sea. In occult wealth. Aldebaran is 9 degrees 47 Gemini. It's wealth through courage, military matters, or industry. It's ambitious, but can lead to downfall through greed. And now we'll look at table Delta 2, which is the stars of Rune. So we're going to go over the star, the longitude, and the financial rune effect. Oops. Alright, so Algol, it's 26 degrees 10 Taurus, is the demon's head. Sudden catastrophic losses, often through violence or sheer bad luck. Conjunct the second house Caspa or POF, it can turn a fortune to ashes overnight. Same as Kaput Algol. It's collective financial disasters, mobs, stock market crashes. 26 degrees 10 Taurus, alright? Sheet, it's 29 degrees 23 Pisces, drowning in debt. Financial loss through water, shipping, or emotional manipulation. Zubanella Ganubi, Alpha Librae, 15 degrees 05 Scorpio, betrayal in financial matters. The south scale tipping toward bankruptcy. Vindimeatrix Epsilon Virginis, it's 9 degrees 56 Libra, lost through bad timing, poor management, or harvest gathered too late, sometimes medical expenses. The astrologer must always check a client's chart for fixed star conjunctions to the primary wealth significators. A part of fortune, an exact conjunction with Spica may be the single most reliable indicator of guaranteed baseline prosperity. A second house cusp on Algol can forewarn of repeated financial decapitations. unless the native lives with extreme care and ethical transparency. I think we're almost finished, actually. We have 2 pages left. All right. I have a few more volumes I want to go over, and then we're going to get into some really cool other stuff on this channel. I have so many ideas, like my brain is just always farting. Anyways, so the guarantee question. Is there an astrological formula for certain wealth? So let's answer this question, the guarantee question. Are you guaranteed in your natal chart by some made-up astrological formula for a certain amount of wealth in your lifetime in this incarnation? Well, here we confront the core philosophical problem. The phrase guaranteed success implies an inescapable destiny, but the astrological tradition has always held that the stars incline, they do not compel. Even the most lavishly appointed natal chart can fail to produce material riches if the native is born into extreme poverty or makes choices that sabotage their potential. Conversely, a chart with no apparent financial promise can yet produce a billionaire if the transits and progressions collaborate in an extraordinary, nonlinear fashion. That said, there are high probability signatures, like configurations so statistically correlated with wealth and empirical studies such as the Gauquelin sectors, though with mixed results, and in the traditional rules that the astrologer can speak with near certainty when these signatures are present and unafflicted. The Golden Quadriga. These are 4 configurations that strongly predict wealth. First is Jupiter in the 2nd house, and its exaltation, Cancer, or rulership, Sagittarius, Pisces, unafflicted, direct, and trine the Sun or the POF. This is a classic abundance marker, and when activated by a Jupiter Fadar or a professional 2nd house year, it rarely fails to deliver. Second, the Almuten of the 2nd house is Venus in the 11th house, conjunct Spica, and receiving a trine from Jupiter in the 7th. This configuration ties personal worth to social networks and partnerships, and the Spica contact seals the fortune. Right. Third, we have the POF in the 10th house, with its dispositor exalted and in mutual reception with the ruler of the 10th. Here, career and worldly standing are the direct conduit of fortune, and in mutual reception locks the flow. Saturn in the 8th house. Trine the 2nd house lord, and the 8th house lord in the 1st house, unafflicted. The native becomes a master of other people's money, a banker, financier, or inheritor of great estates. When all 4 signatures are present, we venture to say the native has a cosmic mandate for significant material success. Yet even then, the timing must be honored. The native who fails to act during a Jupiter transit to the 2nd house may let opportunity slip. The stars bestow the blueprint, but the edifice must be built by human hands. Conversely, the silver chain signatures that almost guarantee a life of financial struggle include Saturn in the 2nd house square Mars, the POF in the 12th house with its dispositor in fall, and the Almuten of the 2nd house combust and in the 8th house. These configurations require immense spiritual resilience to overcome, and the native may find that their wealth is of a non-material kind. Right. Rectification and the precision of the financial blueprint. The exact degree of the 2nd house cusp, the POF, and the fixed star conjunctions can shift dramatically with even a few minutes of birth time error. Therefore, the astrologer who would make precise financial forecasts must first rectify the chart using known life events. The primary event used for financial rectification is the date of the first significant income, first job, inheritance, windfall, natural transits to the 2nd house cusp, or its Almuten. We present the rectification algorithm for wealth, or RECT-FIN, RECT-FIN. So, first, we want to gather at least 3 dated financial events with gain or loss. Second, for a preliminary birth time, cast the chart and direct the ascendant or the POF to these events using solar arcs or primary directions. Third, we want to adjust birth time incrementally until at least 2 events correspond to exact aspects within 0 degrees 10 between the directed point and the natal significator. So for example, directed ascendant trine Jupiter coincides with the first major paycheck. Then we want to validate with the third event. And then once rectified, the exact degree of the second house cusp, POF, and fixed star conjunctions are known. Then the forecast of future wealth windows becomes reliable within narrow margins. Without rectification, the astrologer is reading a probabilistic chart that may be off by an entire house. A disastrous imprecision for financial timing. We thus insist that the adept master rectification before offering any guaranteed pronouncements on wealth. Right. The eclipse and the Plutonic reset, rune and rebirth. Finally, we address the phenomenon of total financial oblivion and subsequent rebirth. The transit of Pluto over the second house cusp, the POF or the Almuten of wealth are often accompanied by bankruptcy, foreclosure, or the dissolution of a business empire. Pluto demands the death of what is inauthentic or built on sand. The Pluto transit is not punishment, it is a purification, and afterward, a new financial chapter begins if the natal chart supports regeneration. The solar eclipse occurring on the second house cusp or the POF is a cosmic reset button. The eclipse can wipe out a fortune, but it can also open a portal to a wholly new source of income. The native's response to the eclipse, clinging to the old or courageously stepping into the new, determines whether the eclipse manifests as ruin or radical prosperity. The Midas wheel presents a comprehensive diagram described in text of the financial astrological system integrating natal promise, rectification, timing cycles, and the fixed stars into a single operational flowchart. The adept who internalizes this wheel can diagnose any chart, answer the question of guaranteed success with nuance, and guide clients through the labyrinth of earthly wealth with celestial wisdom. The true gold. The Midas wheel turns, and the stars count every coin, yet the ancient maxim holds, strive first for the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you. The wealth that the Machina Coelictis describes is not an end, but a sign of alignment. When the second house hums in harmony with the Plutus engine, it reflects a soul that has learned to receive the bounty of the cosmos without greed and to endure scarcity without despair. The astrologer who masters this volume can read the letters of fate, but the sage remembers that the only lasting treasure is the wisdom to know that both riches and poverty are passing costumes worn by the eternal self. And that's precisely the eternal self that I talk about in the eternal now, because we only have right now. Not yesterday, tomorrow, we only have now. So, in my next video, we're going to go over volume 4 on the mechanics of animal astrology and the celestial bond between species. I hope to see you there with peace and love. Piscean out.